pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the October 10, 2017 meeting of the Board of Trustees of the School Town of Speedway. As usual, we will follow an agenda that's printed in the back of the room. There are 12 items on the agenda. Item number 1 is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting. Well, it wasn't a regular meeting, but our special meeting on September 25.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of the September 25th, 2017 meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Laura. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of September 25th. All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0.
I was just going to say, Mr. Lip, now's the time to cue things up, but you are ahead of the game.
I do. Just pens, but I forgot about signing stuff.
They look pretty. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 2 is demonstration of enhanced video surveillance system. Mr. Lip.
Good evening. When Speedway schools first implemented video security, many of us were still watching analog cable and using VCRs to record our favorite programs. Our original surveillance systems used much of the same technology. The technology for capturing, delivering, and recording video has taken a giant leap forward since then, as many of us now use DVRs, stream digital video, and have high-resolution cameras built into our phones. VCRs relied on school personnel to change and archive tapes, offered no remote access, and were the first components to be replaced. Motorized pan-tilt-zoom or PTZ cameras also began to fall out of favor as the costs of maintaining the motors began to exceed the dropping cost of the cameras, resulting in clusters of cameras as seen here. Many of our original cameras, which produced low-resolution black and white images, were replaced over the years with better quality color cameras, continuing to utilize existing coaxial cables and power supplies. In addition to DVRs and high-resolution color cameras, most modern systems also incorporate fully digital cameras that use the same networking cable as our computers and get their power directly over Ethernet cables, just like our phones and wireless access points. The integration of these devices into the data network was the primary reason the technology department now has the responsibility for the surveillance systems. At the high school, we decided a complete replacement was in order, so we went with an all-digital high-definition cameras that use power over Ethernet and include the latest imaging technology. We can now store a minimum of 30 days of high-resolution video with current saved images as old as 48 days. And here's a look at the Speedway High School. Originally,
Could somebody turn off the light for it too? Could somebody just click off one or two of those? It's a little... Good, yeah, that's good.
the old system had just over 30 cameras covering the high school. The new system has over 60 cameras. To help organize these cameras, we can create as many views as we need. This is a view of high school first. Oh, okay. That's going to be tricky. This is a view of the high school first floor cameras. High school second floor cameras.
Now that's live. What we're seeing are
Yes.
people moving around right now.
We are seeing live video right now. High school exterior cameras and a
Lights
view,
are on.
Lights are on.
and a view of the athletic facilities inside this building.
What's the difference between the, like the full square and then the little, it looks like it's looking through the
Can you bring those up?
peephole?
These are, yeah, that's, my next thing of it is.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Instead of pan, tilt, zoom cameras, we now use fisheye cameras. This is a view of a high school entrance. This is actually a single camera with a 360-degree view. It looks rather strange like this, but you have the option of changing the view. And there we see a better view of face level video. And that one single camera is covering doors from the high school principal's office across to the library and both sets of entry doors. We also have, instead of pan, tilt, zoom cameras on outside, we went with cameras, a single camera that has 4 views built into it. Each of these columns is a single camera head, each showing 4 different separate views. One thing we can do with this system that we couldn't do with the old one is even, and actually this is a color camera, but you're seeing a low-level night vision view right now of this camera. That's why it appears to be black and white. We have the option with these digital cameras of digital pan, tilt, zoom, which actually lets us zoom in and focus on specific parts of the view of that one camera. If we need to find out specifically what's going on in one area, we can zoom into that area. For searching cameras, we now have a lot more options for searching our cameras. We can do a quick search, which will give us the last few seconds or the last few minutes of a video, or we can do a more detailed search where we have the option of entering date and time information and searching that way. We also, for more advanced search features, one of the nicest things about this system is the thumbnail search. If we know that a certain vehicle arrived in the parking lot sometime during the day, but we don't know what time, rather than scanning through hours of video, we have the option of a thumbnail search, where we can take a section of video and get thumbnails throughout it and find out, say we want to know when that blue truck arrived, we could find out the last frame where it wasn't there, and the first frame where it was, narrow it down and find out who was driving it. We also have the ability now to search in specific areas for motion. Say we had an incident that happened down in this area of the screen. We don't want to see every video where another car drove through the parking lot. We can specify search for motion in this area, and it will give us every image that it has where there was motion in that particular part of the screen. For the junior high and the elementary schools, the decision was made to upgrade the DVRs immediately and then gradually add and replace cameras over time. These are hybrid systems which allow for the utilization of the current cameras and the addition of new digital cameras on the same system. They have increased archive space and now have the same improved control and search capabilities that we just showed you for the high school. All of this using the same client interface.
Where does that all come into to the IT in the high school versus in the schools individually?
They are still recorded at the individual schools. Each school has its own recorder. Part of that is just to make sure that we continue to get video. It doesn't add extra traffic to our wide area network, and if the wide area network would happen to be down, we would still continue to get video from each school. Over here under our views, we have Allison Elementary, Fisher Elementary, Newby, Wheeler, and all of the cameras at the junior high, all in one view. One other thing too with the high school that we have set up, we have maps of the high school set up using a floor plan of the high school. We put icons representing each camera on the map, and this particular program, the icon turns blue when there's motion. If it's gray, there's not currently any motion. If it's blue, it is detecting motion. We can quickly select a camera, any camera we want to see throughout the building, see where that motion is coming from, and then quickly go back to our overall view. Again, we have the same search capabilities for all of the buildings, even though most of the cameras at the other buildings are still analog cameras. We can search them just the same and use the same digital pan-tilt zoom features.
Biggest difference is the other buildings is they're just not high definition.
Right. We have a variety of cameras at the other buildings. Most of them over the years have been replaced with color cameras. And we're going to continue replacing those. These systems are licensed for an unlimited number of viewers and also include a mobile client for Android and Apple devices, allowing administrators and eventually first responders the ability to view the cameras from outside of the building. Additional improvements for the future: the Exact Vision system is designed to integrate with the system that manages our key fob entry. With full integration, each key fob record will be accompanied by an image from the surveillance system confirming the identity of the key holder. Adding new cameras and replacing the oldest ones at the junior high and the elementary schools will be a priority, and a project is currently underway to utilize E-rate funds to assist in the upgrade of the district network and to accommodate more digital video and improvements, also to improve our battery backup systems to make all of our systems more reliable. Well, hopefully that was one of the shortest PowerPoint presentations you'll ever see, but that's...
No one's ever upset with short. You've worked with the system more than anyone. How much of the system's capability do you think you understand?
I would say at this point most of it. The
Okay.
advanced search features I'm still learning about as we go along, but most of it I'm pretty confident.
How long till we teach these folks out here?
As soon as we get back from fall break, we're going to start training the principals and anybody else who needs access to it. You know how difficult it is to take up principals' time, especially during a school day, so we'll be offering a couple opportunities for group training as well as individual training. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to see?
Did this remove any blind spots, like say at the high school?
Yes, actually, the biggest addition for the high school was we previously had no cameras in either of the gymnasiums and none in any of the stairwells. We now have most of the stairwells covered, and we've also added them at entry areas such as those fisheye cameras that you see. We still are looking at possible areas to add cameras. When we did this system, I purchased 4 extra cameras that have not been deployed. And we've already identified a few areas around the building that we'll be adding those into, and as they come up, we can basically add as many cameras as we need to the system.
The junior high stairwells will be upgraded eventually?
They will too, yes. Currently, the junior high and the elementaries are the existing cameras from the old system, so we haven't added anything yet, but that will be a priority, is adding cameras in the stairwells there. Any other questions? I didn't go through it too fast.
But don't go away yet.
Okay.
We always tell people. One of the things that John just said this evening, and that I'm just very pleased with, is the idea that first responders could be coming this way, and heaven forbid you'd have active shooter, you'd have, something going on. If they can have a look at things before they come in, think about how much more safely they can address things, and that's. But again, I tell you, this is all on the web, which means we're vulnerable to someone hacking in and watching what we're doing. I'm not saying it'll ever happen, but if it's on the web, anything becomes, not that I think we're probably the hot spot for hackers to.
I would also like the possibility that if a fire alarm goes off at the high school at 2 o'clock in the morning, the firemen could see what they're coming into. If there's smoke in part of the building, they could know that before they even enter.
The reason I asked John to stay is if we could, I'd just like him here for when I go through number 3, just in
Okay.
case.
All right, we'll move on to number 3. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Item 3 is to declare technology equipment as surplus for recycling and destruction.
You have a very long list here. Approximately every 5 years, we replace different computer systems, whether they be desktop computers, laptop computers, monitors and printers, and occasionally a fax machine or even a server. John and I have worked together on this. Probably our biggest concern is that any piece of equipment ever go out of here with some type of memory that could be accessed, because no matter how much we say we're going to wipe the memory clean, it seems like somebody finds a way to. So I think one of the things we insist on is we like to simply turn these over to certified recyclers who, we laugh, but I mean, the laugh is that every hard drive and every chip will be hit with a hammer and destroyed. I think the more reality is more they're drilled a hole through them.
They're actually fed into a large grinder to make sure
And so
nothing
nobody says,
survives.
gee, why don't we reuse these computers? Because the data on there, number one, the computers are not tremendously valuable 5 years old, but our liability for ever letting someone get this data is much more significant than what might come about. And so consequently, we look for a certified recycler who's going to destroy this equipment. We'd like to get it out of here. About the only thing that doesn't have much memory are monitors, and I don't know if occasionally we've kept some on the shelf in case, but the rest of these, I would recommend that you declare. Even printers have memory in them when something's been sent to them. Declare these items surplus so that we can recycle. The trade-off is they destroy it and certify our data's no good, and they get the silver or whatever. Is that,
Yes.
have I said all of that about
Yes,
correctly?
they get the scrap value.
They don't charge us to get rid of it. There are some people who would charge us for a machine.
Hard drive destruction usually, in most places, sometimes is as much as $10 per unit. But this particular company will, in exchange for the scrap metal, will go ahead and do the destruction for us, and they will provide us with a certificate saying that all the hard drives have been destroyed.
Or when you say hard, memory of any part, right?
Right.
So my recommendation is that you do designate this list of items as surplus for destruction and recycling.
Lauren?
I move that we declare the technology equipment as listed as surplus for recycling and destruction.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we declare the equipment as presented to us for recycling and destruction. All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0.
John, we always say this, and when your part's done, you are welcome to exit. You're welcome to stay. You might be wise to exit while you have a chance, but that's up to you.
Well, thank you for your
Same thing
time.
with the rest.
You can turn the lights on.
Oh, yeah, can you turn the lights back on?
Okay, item number 4 is to review school improvement plans.
And I will turn this over to Mr. Disney.
The I-STEP results are in. They're not in for the corporate, they're embargoed for the corporation, but they're in for the schools. Couldn't be more proud of what our schools have accomplished. If you look at other organizations, other school districts, Speedway again is outstanding. We had 5 A's and a B as in our schools. And I want to, as a secondary trained person, and Dr. Trebley also, we have used to go into the high school and the junior high, but I can tell you that in this short period of time, we've gone to all the elementary schools, and it is amazing the level of instruction on a daily basis. No wonder our scores are what they are. The instruction at our elementary levels are outstanding. So we use these I-STEP results to determine what we want to do the coming year. Part of what we're going to do now is have our principals present their school improvement plans for this coming school year. So anybody want to go first?
Let's just, Brenda has kindly agreed that she will talk for all of the elementaries because there's a lot of similarity to the plans, and then both secondary. This is your opportunity. You've had the opportunity to look at their summaries. You can ask questions. We're not asking you to approve these because frankly, they don't, what you have to do is have knowledge that they exist. So there's no action that we're looking for. We just want it on the record. So now, having said that, it's either going to be Brenda, Rick, or Luke, and I'm not sure who draws the short straw. But they have to come up to the podium. We knew you'd be first. You always go first.
And I am representing all 4 elementaries who are here this evening. We have many similarities. Our biggest thing to say is our goals are talking about increased performance in math and English language arts on standardized tests. I mean, that's our bottom line. And that we have many of the same strategies that we're using in math. We're doing problem solving, facts, fluency. In English language arts, we're using text to support answers and really higher order thinking skills. And you'll see that as a common across all 4 of our plans. Mostly we're doing this because we do have some differences between the student populations that we serve. We're doing it by small group, that it's the kind of divide and conquer mentality. So we're addressing the high kids, the medium kids, and the low kids. And that something we're all aiming to do is maintain or increase our attendance rates. So those are all very simple key things that we want to do well as elementaries to post the scores that we're posting with our children. Questions?
Wait, but now stop for a minute, okay? Because I'm gonna put you and John on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
As you look forward to the new federal guidelines, as I look at them, I see an increased emphasis on what we commonly used to call subgroups. And we have subgroups. You have to have a certain amount of an N number. And at Wheeler, we have all the subgroups, whether it be
We're really
male,
lucky.
female, whatever minority, and English as a second language. Of those, as the 2 of you look at things, is there one area that's worthy of our attention more than any other, or the group that because
The new ESSA plan's going to have where we've had performance and growth. That's all we've had at K through, or 3 through 8. Now we're going to have performance and growth and how we do with our ESL population. So that is going to be one of the factors included in that. So to answer that question, I think that that's going to be a very important part of our plan, is how do we improve those kids that come to us that English wasn't their first language.
And I agree that we'll have like 4 sections. It's the WIDA, the growth, the where you perform, and that 4th one is attendance. And that's on our radar because our kids attend very well and we're very into that, but they're moving that bar from 95% to 97%. And that's a tough one to get with some of our families. But yeah,
essentially we may be asking kids to come to school sick.
Yeah, and we're really on those parents to get them to school now, so that makes some cranky parents sometimes.
Chronic attendance is what they're going to call that one, the area of attendance, and it's going to be if a student is 96% or less, would be a total of what would be about 15 days would be a chronic attender. So.
In the decade you've been here, Jay, attendance has always been one of the key fabrics of your school, and it takes how much of your time?
A lot. I mean, with my clientele, it's a lot. I mean, we're sending letters out, we're calling, phone calling. I've got my homeschool advisor that calls constantly. We're always. Now I'm sure Brenda is very much in the same boat that I'm in, but we try. I mean,
but if you've ever gone to Allison for like the Read Across America Day, and go through that convo, it's the key thing. But I still think that you're talking about 97%. You're talking about days where a student doesn't miss a month, which means I'm not sure how productive it is to bring one kid in who's ill who might spread it to others. But I think you got to rethink this one a little bit.
I have a family that's going to Paris, so they're going to be gone 3 weeks. Well, that's a call to make them, basically unenroll them, re-enroll them kind of thing. And then it's more support in the office to get them in and out of power school, and so there's always that hidden.
And I have students going to Thailand.
Well, they're going to unenroll and then re-enroll.
Yeah.
You even have to start looking at things like if a student's there, how much of a day counts as a whole day?
Right.
Do you want to count 2 periods out for a doctor's appointment? I think we're going to have to start looking at not counting that against students, because we're going to count against our own schools.
Yes.
And we, what does perfect attendance mean? That's secondary. Getting secondary meaning not as important as getting everybody to 97%. But we'll have these discussions and we'll give ourselves every chance. But I'm going to sum this up. You're nice. You wouldn't say it this clearly, Johnny. We're going to need help in English as a new language. We're going to have to look at our staff. We're going to have to look at finding ways that these students that come in who have very little English, because can teach them the language, if we can get them up, and, you know, the goal is that within 5 years, but if we don't have that kind of time. If we can get them up to functioning in language in 3 years, then we know they have a better chance, because math is no longer numbers, math is reading.
I think that brings up another big change when Ken says that before, when we had a newcomer come in, like I had a child move in the week before in 6th grade and never spoke English. Well, they didn't have to take the language arts part, and that law is going to change with ESSA, that no matter when you move in, you take the test. Now, it doesn't count the first year for some kids, then the second year they get a baseline, and the third they look for growth. So they've really accelerated the expectation that children learn language in like 2 years, when we know research says 5 to 7.
How does that, I mean, you know, give us a little education on how that even works. You know, a kid comes into an elementary class, or any, I guess, age classroom.
It's actually harder the older they are.
And so, you know, the classroom teacher, is it the classroom teacher's responsibility to teach English?
I think
or
it's
is
different
it, and
on
how
levels.
does that work when they're, you know, or do they go out of the classroom and then miss stuff that happens in the classroom?
Well,
I can't even imagine if I had a student in my class that
I think the answer to that question is there's not one, if there was one magic thing you did that changed that, but we'll get some students that don't speak no English at all, and then you'll get some that understand a little bit, and then some that can speak a little bit. And so the answer to that question, it's a wide range of things that we try to do, but most of those are in the classroom, the immersion type of concept of put them in the classroom, let them hear it. But then we have staff that specifically work on language skills with them to try to get them accelerated as quickly as they can. It's what Dr. Wolf just mentioned is almost, it's almost hurtful to think of a kid coming in, not speaking the language and saying, here's this test, I want you to take this test, and it takes an hour of your time to do that. And I've seen junior high kids, you know, start to cry. They can't do it. Now, the first year, all they have to do is attempt this test, but then the second year, like you said, is a baseline year, and then the third year is when we start getting measured for growth, which, you know, it is what it is. We've got to learn how to do the best we can with that situation.
Some might call it educational malpractice. Make kids do that. That's how poorly it is. I will say this, and the assistant superintendents are seeing something. You know what? If you're tired of standing up, you're please welcome to sit down. You're not, because you could just say Betsy will answer that. I've seen you guys do that to each other before, but one of the things that is remarkable, Laura, because it is the Title I program, which is helping students read. All 4 of these elementary principals use the Title I assistance, because if we're helping a kid who's struggling with reading, they can also help. At the junior high, the reading teacher that we have helps with and contributes to, and we have ESL. But it is an amazing thing, and why I say that is you really begin to understand the value of some of our wonderful paraprofessionals who someone like Gail Goki, who's a reading expert, who then marshals with Brenda, the paraprofessionals, and essentially trains them to be mini teachers, to go out and work with groups of students. It is, I can't tell you how impressive it is to see every minute used in every way possible helping our students. And I mean, there's just no other way to say it. The higher the population, the more creative you've got to be in it, and that means the highest population is at Wheeler and the second highest population is at Allison. And there are some unique things there. But make no mistake, it's the same model, because it's the special education teachers at Fisher that still works with and finds ways to help kids. It's a team effort. And you know, Lance is back there nodding, because I think what we think is a big deal, he thinks is not quite what he was used to before. So I mean, we might be considered a blessing by some of our neighbors. But I'll shut up and ask Mr. Roseborough, because I see him leaning forward. Are we doing anything at the junior high?
Ken, one last thought on that. Sometimes we fail to remember how many different languages
Oh, yeah.
kids are bringing. It's not like they all
Spanish.
fit in, yeah,
there
they
another?
all fit into one. It's, I remember Tim McRoberts saying we had 107 graduates from 19 different countries that spoke 18 different languages originally, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sure that hadn't gotten any better. So congrats to all of you and your staffs and your ability to do that.
Well, good evening. Before I start on my school improvement plan, I just want to say something about the camera and the presentation. I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate that I've used them a few times, and they're really user-friendly, and I probably know enough just to be a little dangerous, because I grabbed the guy when he installed them and said, "Hey, show me how to use this a little bit." So it's
Now, Rick's being modest, because on the old system, he was our resident expert. When you wanted to know, so look, see, even though if you wanted to know how to use it or find something, who did you call?
Yeah.
Rick.
I don't know about that, but anyway, these
Yes,
are much
I know about
easier.
that.
These are much easier to use, and it's going to be a real improvement. I mean, it's really good. So, at the junior high, I thought the way I would go through this is again talk a little bit about the description of the school, just point a couple things out before I got to our actual plan and what our goals were. And I don't know if you had the one-page summary, but the one thing I kind of highlighted, just to give you a little background, is our free and reduced lunch numbers. In the last 3 years, they've gone up from 52 to 50, well, 52.5, 52.1, and now up to 56.1. So that's quite an increase compared to the last 3 years. And so we're still doing pretty good. Our teachers are doing amazing things with those kids. On the next area, the summary of data, the one area that has changed our focus a little bit, and that is our 7th grade math scores, as I just kind of want to point out the last 3 years there also, and it kind of leads into why we changed our first goal. We were at 62%, 66%, and 63% in math the last 3 years, and so we talked it over and thought that needs to be a focus as one of our goals. So getting down to the goals themselves, the first goal that you see is a new goal. It is all students will show growth, and it's very general in math comprehension. And so we've thrown some strategies. The teachers have incorporated several strategies. I'm not going to go through all those, but a couple to stand out. We have now incorporated STAR math 3 times a year. We used to just do the STAR reading, and now we do STAR math. So that's helping us, keep kind of the temperature of the kids as if they're improving, and what areas of weakness we need to maybe focus on. Also, we've started last year using the ALEX math program. We're using that again this year, and we have currently 18 students on it, and it's a computer-based program that is for our more lower level of preparedness students. And most of them, I've talked to our math teacher that's using it extensively, or a lot right now, and most of those kids are testing or starting at around 5th grade level, a couple of grade levels behind. Those are the ones we've targeted into one certain period of the day. And so they're working about 30 minutes with the ALEX program, which is a computer-based program, and then 20 minutes of kind of direct instruction. So we're trying to hit them with that a little bit. We still do a lot of the same things as far as breaking our kids down, especially like our 7th graders the last quarter of the year. When they had Mr. Harvey, then he kind of looks and sees if they should go into the pre-algebra or the accelerate math, and again, kind of find the need that they have and change the schedules and do whatever we need to do to work on that area. So we're doing a lot of things to try to, to beef up the math area. Goal 2, all students will show growth in the reading comprehension. Again, that's the same goal, and as you can tell from the statistics, it's been working. It's all been working, but that one we kind of have not tweaked too much. We still have Ms. Groshen, who's our reading specialist. We've utilized her with both grade levels now, with the 7th and 8th grade a little bit more. We have at this time, we have high ability language arts in both areas, and those numbers are up to 48 in the 7th grade in the high ability and 54 in 8th grade high ability language arts. So we're also hopefully stretching the top group. And then, as we just already talked, our 3rd goal is again 97% student attendance rate. So quick summary of what we're doing at the junior high.
Don't lose sight over goal number 1, item 7. Because it's not just about students who are challenged, it's about students who are doing very well. And someday, if it ever turns out that we've got a group of 15 to 18 students who can take Algebra 1 as 7th graders, we'll teach geometry to them at the 8th grade. We're not going to hold back. We'll move them forward. And by the time they get to high school, we'll let them go to IUPUI, but we'll deal with that then.
We have a couple girls doing that now. They come in 2nd period every day, and I count them tardy every day and give them a hard time. Every day.
So they do well in math and kill our attention.
Just kill our attention. So thank you.
Talking to you.
Evening, everyone. Our improvement plan at the high school focuses on three main areas, those being graduation rate, I-STEP performance, and performance within our AP and dual credit programs. Our goal in regard to the graduation rate is to be at 90% or above. Should be noted that is based on the new ESSA guidelines, which does not count general diplomas into our graduate rate. To put that into a little bit of perspective, our 2017 grad rate is 80% based on the 80 or the ESSA guidelines.
That means not counting the general diplomas, it's 80%.
Not counting
Counting them, it's what?
94%. So pretty big difference there. So a lot of adjustments that we are making in that regard. A couple big initiatives that are supporting those efforts are academic monitoring through our guidance department, as well as the revamping of our Failures Not an Option program this year. Our second goal, dealing with our AP and our dual credit programs, we want 45% of our graduates to pass at least one AP exam or receive at least 3 college credits through our dual credit program. Main focus being on the continued growth within our AP program in both number of students taking AP classes and total number of students passing an AP exam. You'll see on that summary of our plan, we saw tremendous growth in the number of students taking an AP class in the years of or the 16-17 school year. We see another big jump this school year. We're up about 50 students. Same thing in our total number of AP exams that will be taken. We're up about 120, or will be up about 120 over last year. We anticipate this growth will also have a big impact on the number of students who are able to pass an AP exam as well. Third goal, focus on I-STEP performance. Another area we saw tremendous growth last school year. We saw our English jump about 30 points, our math jump about 15. Moving forward, we'd like to see our English pass rate at 80% or above. Math, we want to get to 55%. Should be noted the large discrepancy between those two goals actually mirrors the large discrepancy in the state average of those exams. The state average right now sits at about 60% passing for English and about 35% passing in math. Our current pass rates then are about 10 to 15 points above the state average. Our goal would put us at about 20 percentage points above the state average. All of our improvement efforts are driven through our weekly PLC meetings that we have on Monday mornings. Majority of this time centers around department collaboration, success team collaboration, and professional development. We focus on 3 areas: curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and we're driven by 4 questions. What do we want students to learn? How do we know they learned it? What do we do if they don't? And what do we do if they do? That's kind of our plan in summary. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Just one note, they're shooting for 45% of the high school kids to have college credit. The state says exceptional is 25%. It's the most you can learn. So they're already 18 points above that and shooting for more. I don't think there's commentary on the viability of the math test here. Is there any test that the state average passing is 35%? That couldn't be a test problem, could it? How are you going to get to 97% attendance with high school kids, Mr. Sartman?
Well, fortunately, the attendance piece is left out of the high school in ESSA, but we are still striving to improve that. We tell that to our teachers all the time. Our teachers do a phenomenal job of educating students when they're in the classroom. One of the biggest challenges is just those kids that aren't in the classroom. If we can get them there, our teachers can educate them. So that is obviously a big focus of ours, even though it doesn't tie into directly the ESSA accountability. Thank you.
Ms. Disney, anything to wrap up?
Our high school was one of the 3 high schools in Marion County that got an A this past year, which they went from a B to an A, so congratulations. Great job.
You'll see more of this information in a couple months when we retreat and look at things in general, but guys, I know that everybody up here, thank you for everything you do. So much so that if you need to get home and, get ready for tomorrow, please don't hesitate, okay?
Thanks,
stay.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 5, is to approve school board policy regarding criminal history information.
6 meetings, this is the 6th meeting, I'm going to recommend we approve this policy. Get started on it. Look at the author who's raising her hand.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the policy regarding criminal history information.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tom. Any comment? We've had it for quite a while, with various tweaks, so all those in favor? Motion carries 4-0.
Dr. Trebley, you start on this tomorrow.
Check.
Tomorrow.
Okay, item 6 is a report on the fall semester 2017 ADM, our average daily membership.
Average daily membership came in at 1,855. This is one of the highest places we've been. It is 65 higher than the revenue estimate for the budget, so it bodes well for the fact that we hired teachers to make up for this, and if we could have, we might have hired more. If you're looking at the state report, you have the report on class size, which I always give you, and the good news is the class size report generated by one person matches the state report generated by the other, which is always a good sign when two people come up with the same number. But if you're looking at that state report, it might be a little bit hard because it doesn't identify, the schools are identified by numbers. We know those numbers by heart. But if you go down to the first number you see, 5889, if you want to label that, that's the junior high, 271. High school is 5891, that's 522 kids. The next two numbers are Allison Elementary, and the top number, 289, is grades 1 through 6, and the bottom number is kindergarten. Why are those two separate? Because we don't get the same amount of funding for a kindergartner that we get for a regular student, because the state doesn't quite fund kindergarten at the same level. The second two numbers are Fisher, 123 and 21. Newbie is about 167 and 31. I'll let you, that's high for Newbie. That's 198 kids. They're getting back close to 200. Kindergarten being the smallest number. And finally, Wheeler, you can see, is sitting at 376. I think we put the two classrooms in at the right place at the right time. But they are full already. So those are our numbers. I will forewarn you, this is not going to change. They're going to get larger next year. We probably won't have a jump of 65, but if I had to bet, I'd say that we'll budget for a little less than this, but it's entirely possible that we'll grow by another 30 students next year.
You're so good at it, we're waiting for a number so that we could write it
I'm not
down.
going to give you an exact number yet, but we'll write it down in the summer, and we'll see if we get there.
Thank you. Item 7 is to present security procedures regarding standardized testing.
Mr. Disney, what is this piece of paper we have here?
Now, this is an agreement that is read and signed by every adult, not just teacher.
Right.
Every adult in our school corporation that would have any reason to be around the test, touch the test, deliver the test, carry the test. And it is an agreement that goes through security measures and integrity in dealing with the test. Each staff member is also views a video. That had to be done by September the 30th, and they all have complied. And take a test on what they saw. Principals have also had to present testing security measures in a staff meeting, which they've all completed. And the reason why it's on the agenda this evening is so that you, as a board, will understand the procedures we go through for testing security.
Doesn't mean an error won't be made, but we hope that no intentional error will ever be made. Thank you, Mr. Disney.
Very good, thank you. Item number 8 is to review the results of the State Board of Accounts audits for 2013 to 2015.
It's my intent to read the 78 pages to you this evening, the report. The reality is, the State Board of Accounts just got the bill for $9,000. They spent days here between about the 1st of June and the middle of July. And they came up with 4 findings, 4 things we could improve. The first thing I want to make sure you know is no material findings, no money lost, no equipment, strictly procedural things that we either didn't know or needed and should have known or need to do better. The first one is, for the first time, the school lunch program was supposed to be reported on what's called the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. We reported it as we always do. All accounting was correct. We didn't have it on the right form. We will have it on the right form. I should have caught that. When they say lack of internal control, that means that the person in charge should have checked that. I did not because I didn't know about it, but I do now. Number 2, each time we do a federal grant like the special ed grant or the Title I grant, when the grant's complete, we go through all the expenditures and sign off, and all of our expenditures and all of our reports on the schedule for that were correct. I didn't initial it when I checked it, and we couldn't find the copy of Andrea's email where she said that she had signed off. So even though we sent it in, we should have double-checked it, even though it was accurate. So we now I sign and send an email on every federal grant to make sure that I take care of that. Number 3, we have too large of a cash balance in our food service program, despite generous raises to our staff in the last 2 years. And so we must devise a way to reduce that balance, and we have to have a specific plan. Our plan is twofold. We intend to purchase a new cafeteria fund management system, so we take better accounting of the funds that come in, and new cash registers. Those are commonly called points of service. And we will replace the chairs in the high school cafeteria. Some of the plastic on them is eroding, but we're not going to replace just the plastics. We'll replace the whole chairs. We will get our balance down. Part of the reason our balance is hard to keep up is because you might have remembered that we were cited in our last audit for not charging the kids enough. We were actually charging the students who paid 3 cents too little, and so they told us that. They said we did that from 2011 to 2013, but they didn't tell us until 2014. So we didn't increase our prices until the middle of 2014. So since this audit is 13 through 15, we got cited again. We now have our prices up. So essentially, we charge people more to make our balance get bigger, so we have to spend more money. Kind of hard to understand, but it is what it is, and we are complying.
Does the cafeteria have to be self-sustaining? In other words, if the van where we take food, does that come out?
It does, and it
oven,
did.
If an oven.
Yes. It doesn't have to be. In fact, I have always been very careful to use the capital projects to make sure that we have the right equipment. In hindsight, I should have been charging the cafeteria, but we haven't had any equipment break. But we did just buy a new van to transport after 11 years, and so that helped drive that balance down. And they frankly, they love the van. It's tall, it's easy to get in and out of, and it was a very wise purchase. I regret I didn't do it in 2015. But we did it this year. But yes, and yes, Tom, the cafeteria absolutely has to be self-sustaining because I have no intention of pumping any money into it.
So what happens if something wears out or breaks we didn't intend? Is there?
Understand the threshold we're above. They reasonably say that it would be appropriate for us to have a 3-month cash balance. A cash balance for us is, for a month, is typically, or 3 months of expenses, so that if funding went away. A month of expenses for us are about $70,000, so our cash balance should not be any greater than 3 months, $210,000. It averaged $287,000. So once we get it down to that under 210, we're not going much lower than that. But it's just going to have to take careful management. And it's my responsibility. So those are our findings. They are available on the web for anyone. I've not yet in 37 years, 38 years, it's hard to remember, had a State Board of Accounts audit that didn't have findings. These are reasonable findings and correctable. The one you look at as a superintendent is you never want to have material findings, money or equipment missing. We do not. Anything I say, the board president is president of both the entry conference and the exit conference. Have I misrepresented anything?
No, except if you really want to read those word for word, there's a lot of repetition in there.
Yeah, they say the same thing, and the schedules are
I
there.
think the summary was much more succinct and understandable.
And I would say that, make no mistake, this was not an unpleasant experience. The auditor we had was relatively new. He was an intelligent young man. He was good. His supervisor spent a day here every week. Then we had a second person. They finished this in 7 weeks, and I'm typically used to 12 weeks. They did a great job. They were pleasant in what they did with us. This was not a bad experience.
Okay. Item 9 is acknowledgement of grants received.
And I would recommend that by consensus, you accept $80,872.83 in grants and gifts and donations to the school corporation.
So moved. Okay. Item 10 is employment recommendations.
And this evening, we are recommending Ms. Cynthia Wassel to become a teacher at Speedway High School. She has a physics license. She will be teaching physics and integrated physics and chemistry. Also recommending that Ms. Tamara Essenwine be reassigned to the position of Deputy Treasurer at the Central Office from Speedway High School. We also have 2 extra duty recommendations, that Eric Roseborough, teacher at the high school, be the 8th grade boys basketball coach, and that Caleb Pennington, who is also well known to us and has coached many things, become our 7th grade basketball coach. And I would like to recommend that we enter into an independent contractor agreement with Miss Lucy Whitty to be, for lack of a better term, our long-term substitute director of special education when our director is out on leave.
What's the board's pleasure? Tom?
I'll move that we employ Cynthia Wassel as physics and chemistry teacher, Tammy Essenwine as deputy treasurer, Eric Roseborough's 8th grade boys basketball coach, and Caleb Pennington as 7th grade boys basketball coach. And we have an independent contract for Lucy Whitty to fill in for Andrea while she's out.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Laura? It's been moved and seconded that we approve Cynthia Wassel as a high school physics and chemistry teacher, the moving of Tamara Essenwine to the deputy treasurer position, Eric Roseborough for 8th grade basketball, Caleb Pennington for 7th grade basketball, and Lucy Whitty as an exceptional learning director while Andrea is out. All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Item 11, recognition of visitors who have all left, and any other business. Okay, I just want to bring up one thing under other business. It's mentioned several times about ESSA, and when we do superintendent evaluations, it has been our policy in the past to have 75% the evaluation instrument, 15 for the corporation grade, and 10 for the meeting of goals. Do we want to keep that, or do we want to make, switch the 15 and 10 around, or make it 80, 10 and 10? Because we don't know what ESSA is going to do to our corporation grade next year.
My inclination is to reduce the value of the corporation grade, just to avoid any sense that we're penalized by something that's outside of our control and outside of our efforts. It wouldn't be reflective of the quality of the work.
Which way would you prefer, to bump the evaluation instrument up 5, or just to flip-flop the goals and or anything else?
I'd say bump the evaluation up.
Everybody agreed on that?
I agree with what Luke said.
Can we wait and see if the grade stays high? We have board flexibility. I'm going to work as hard, but there is some idea that, as you can see, I mean, because of a late change in federal government, our graduation rate drops 14 points because the state didn't designate the general diploma as a diploma. Now, if that drop means that all of a sudden the high school's letter grade drops a letter grade or two, and then that affects the overall thing, yeah, but still going to work at it, and we're not going to let that happen. What we have to understand is we've got juniors, we already had seniors who were planning for their diploma, we've already graduated, we can't change them. We've had juniors who've gone through 3 years, many have moved in. This is kind of unfair. Now, especially it's unfair when you think that when I graduated from an Indiana high school, it took 32 credits to graduate. Today, they're saying 40 isn't enough. It's got to be 48. But that, again, that's kind of like testing a kid in English who's been here weeks. But our folks are voting on it. I mean, people we elect are doing this. And if you like, this could be something we could come back and set. In fact, it's really a matter of just telling the president how he wants to set the evaluation.
But it needs to be done ahead of time. You can't do it.
Yeah, I was kidding about let's wait and see.
Unfortunately.
What's the 10 and 15 right now?
The 15 is the state grade.
Right.
And 10 is the meeting of the goals that the superintendent will highlight. We don't have to do it tonight, but we should do it at the next meeting.
I feel like we can have a handle on what we expect and what we want to see, and I would rather value the goals than the external grade.
You want to flop the 15 and the 10?
I think that's what I'd prefer.
Okay.
Well, by consensus, we can make this work. Undoubtedly, your evaluation of me is going to be the biggest part of that.
Biggest
It
piece.
always has been.
All right.
It should be.
Right.
Yep.
It isn't as if I'm not working for 5 people who don't have a little bit of experience in this and have a professional education to understand what we're looking for. So I have far more confidence in what you say than either of those other 2 things for me. But so 75% on the written rubric evaluation, 15% on goals, and 10% on the S grade is absolutely.
All right. We will,
I don't think I can get damaged either way.
we will let Mrs. Gonzalez know that as well. Should be in the minutes. Okay. I don't have anything else. We'll go sign claims.